John Marston's legend was written in the dust of a dozen towns. His son Jack only read it in books. So he's returning to those fading landmarks to separate the myth from the man and to find out which town truly is the best in the West.
Bad move!
Jack started his journey at home, where he gathered everything he needed for his trip. He could not wait to embark on his journey as there were so many places to go that he had never been before. He quickly embarked on his trip. He hopped on his horse and was ready for the first town. On his way, he saw a wolf attacking a man on his horse. Jack did the best he could to help take it out as he shot it to its death. Not even seconds later, he noticed another shootout. These police officers killed this outlaw. What a start to this journey it was. Was this the true Wild West his dad experienced and that he read in books? Maybe this was the trip that Jack needed. Things were gonna get crazy. Jack could only imagine what events were ahead of him as he made his way into his first town, Blackwater. There was no better spot for him to start since this place was very close to the ranch. First things first, Jack was going to check into the hotel, which was located in the saloon. It was rainy out, so this was the perfect opportunity to check it out. It was honestly huge and pretty nice. Jack would be rating every room along the way. He'd give the rating a little bit later though. For now, it was time to hit the town. Since it was bad weather, the streets were dead, and Jack noticed a movie theater across the street. Of course, the weather made this a perfect time for one. Jack was honestly not used to movies. As a kid, he read so many books. The movie was pretty enjoyable. He enjoyed watching it. The weather had cleared up as he left. Jack wanted to go explore town, so he checked out the road by the water. There was a lot of stores around here. Jack decided to check one out. This was a clothes store. He noticed a nice boardwalk area by the water. He decided to walk all the way to the end. This was a great view of the lake. So far, Blackwater was really nice. He left the boardwalk to find something else to do. He saw these ladders on this building and decided to climb up. He had no real plan, but just wanted to see a cool view of the city, which he got as he looked over the edge of the roof. Blackwater looked awesome from above. After that, he climbed down to not get caught. While walking in town, a man challenged him to a duel. Jack didn't want to end his trip on the first vacation, but maybe later he'd get himself into more trouble. He decided to take a better look at the clothes store, but nothing caught his eye. Then he went to the gun store, where once again nothing was good. After that, he headed to the general store to actually get some food to eat. After that, he decided to check out this nice town square area. It had a nice gazebo to chill in. Jack had done a lot today. He headed back into the saloon to get a drink. After that, it was time for some blackjack, where he stood on 17, and the dealer busted, leaving Jack with a nice win. He left on a winning note, where by now the sun was starting to set. Jack really enjoyed Blackwater. He gave the town an overall niceness rating of 8.5 out of 10. He headed back to his hotel room, then he headed to bed. He slept pretty well in that room last night, so he decided to rate it 8 out of 10. Jack was ready to move on to the next place though, so he had to leave nice and early. As he left Blackwater, he totaled up the score, giving it 16.5 out of 20. Jack was ready for the next town, which wasn't too far. Jack still had so many towns to go to. Next on his list was Thieves Landing. This place is a port town with a lack of authority, a perfect place for Jack to experience the Wild West. He knew at least one crazy thing was bound to happen here. First things first though, he decided to check into his room, which honestly was very average. I mean, what could he expect in a town like this? Nothing too fancy. He decided to go explore the area, starting with a place called Dixie Rose. He wasn't quite sure what this building was for, but it provided a nice balcony view. Next up, of course, was the saloon. How could he go to a town without checking one out? The bartender poured him a drink, which he downed. Same as before, of course he had to play a round of blackjack after, which he ended up winning again. Jack's winning streak was still alive. So far, his luck was high. He saw some nice looking horses in a pen. Of course he had to try one out. No one would stop him doing anything here. After that, it was time to explore town, where he found a gunsmith. Jack was just browsing though. He found another clothes store as well, which had a decent selection of shirts. He crossed over to the other side of town, where a man started threatening him. This time, Jack wasn't gonna take it. He challenged him to a duel. This guy had no clue how good Jack was, as he immediately sprayed him full of bullets. His opponent never stood a chance. A group gathered looking at the man's body. Jack took his opportunity to loot him. That's what happens when you mess with Jack in Thieves Landing. He handled that the Wild West way. He headed to the store after that to get some food. Immediately after that though, a lady came up to him telling him she had been robbed. Of course, Jack had to take this into his own hands. There was no authorities here. Jack made his way to the shooter and killed him in one shot. After taking the money back, he returned it to the lady where she let him keep a portion of it. After that, he noticed some guys playing Five-Finger Filet. And of course, in every town he wanted the authentic experience, so he was going to try everything. Jack had actually never played this game before. He watched the other guy go first. To be honest, he was pretty slow. It was time for Jack's turn. It looked like he was a born natural. He started flying through this round and easily took the win. Once again, the guy was pretty slow, so Jack was able to destroy him. His winning streak for games was still alive, so he left while he was on top again. Jack actually really liked Thieves Landing. He would give the town niceness rating a 5 out of 10 though. He went for one last drink to end the night, then he headed back to his room. This place sure gave him a Wild West experience. Jack woke up the next morning nice and early and got ready to leave right away. He slept pretty good last night, but the hotel was very average, giving it a 5 out of 10. This gave Thieves Landing a score 10 out of 20. Jack still had so many towns to go to, including a whole different country that he had never been to before yet. Before that though, it was time for his next town that wasn't quite actually a town, because he was at McFarlane's ranch. This place helped his dad in a time of need, so of course he was going to stop and stay here. He would even help them with anything they needed later. This ranch was large enough that it was basically its own town. Jack went to go check out his room, which was honestly super cluttered, but he couldn't complain. This was the place to sleep. He quick put his belongings away, then went to explore the ranch. He'd never actually been here before, so it was cool to see. He noticed a guy playing horseshoes, so of course he had to play against him. The guy started off with a great throw though, and Jack's warm-up one sucked. His second one was a lot better though and actually made it somewhat close. The warm-up round was over though, it was time for the real one. His opponent did not do as good though, and now that Jack was warmed up, he was able to do a lot better. His second throw was pretty decent as well. Jack's long winning streak of every game was still alive. After that, he explored the rest of the ranch. He even stumbled across a poker room. He wasn't the best at poker though and didn't want to lose his winning streak, so he left. After that, Jack headed to the general store, where he got some food once again. After that, he saw a guy making an axe, which was pretty cool, and then he saw a guy smelting some horseshoes. It was cool to observe the process of them being made. He saw a bunch of horses as well that he was sure his dad helped get. Sure, this town wasn't the true crazy Wild West experience he was looking for, but it helped him remember his dad's life. He clearly loved climbing things as he decided to scale this tower. He saw a perfect ledge for some cool parkour as well. He wanted a better view of the ranch though, so he decided to climb an even taller tower. He was glad he stopped at the ranch. He gave it a niceness rating of 5.5 out of 10. He decided to go back to his room to take a nap until nighttime, because he had a job to do. Jack woke up at sunset and he headed to the foreman's office because he'd be working the night shift. Jack was put in charge of keeping the ranch safe, capturing any criminals that he came across. This dog would help him find any disturbances. After following the dog for a while, there was still nothing to be worried about until all of a sudden he took off running. Jack was on his way. This thief was trying to steal a horse. Jack used his lasso to take him off the horse, making sure to not kill him, as that was his goal. He had successfully defended the ranch, so he headed back to the foreman's office to collect his reward. After his night shift, he wanted to chill out a bit. He headed to the community area where everyone was sitting by the fire. He listened to a man play the violin and said hi to a couple of them. He loved the community they had built here. He wasn't just searching for the Wild West experience, but also a place of belonging, so this was perfect. Jack headed back into his cabin where he headed to bed. Jack woke up the next morning. The room was okay last night, but he was going to give it a 3 out of 10. Jack was ready to move on to the awesome towns ahead of him, where he expected great adventures and fun things to happen. He hopped on his horse and then left the ranch. He liked McFarlane's ranch, but it scored 8.5 out of 20, due to it primarily not being a town. On his way to the next location, Jack came across an amazing view. From here he could see the country that he'd be heading to later, and using his binoculars, he scouted out the town he was heading to now, Armadillo. This was the pinnacle of a Wild West town. Jack could not wait to explore. First though, he'd check into his hotel room at the saloon. This room was once again very average. This time though, there was 2 beds, which was interesting. Next, he went to go look at his balcony view to get a first look of the town. It was now time to explore. He checked out the gun store, then after walking around for a bit, he found a movie theater in the outskirts. It was movie time. This one was called The Dangers of Doctors, and it was pretty funny. The animation was great as well. After the movie, he headed back into town, where he first saw a cute dog. Of course he had to say hi. He wondered if he should get one. Jack was hungry, so he headed to the general store. Then after continuing to explore, he stumbled across what looked like a practice shooting range. And of course he'd be trying this out. Revolver aimed and ready, it was time to shoot. He started showing off his amazing gunslinger skills, hitting all of the cans. Next were the bottles, which he took all out. He even decided to hit and line up this thing. That was some great practice in case he needed it for later. He came across some guys playing 5-finger fillet, and of course he realized he was a pro, so he had to join in. He was ready for this new round, hoping to keep his win streak alive. This round looked a lot harder though, and when it was Jack's turn, he messed up right away. He continued going but did the same thing again, and again, and again, until he finally got it fast, which secured the win somehow. He was one more stab away from losing. His hand was hurting pretty bad, so he took a break and just listened to the local preacher. He said hi to some of the locals, as he wanted to make a good impression to keep his father's good name alive. alive. All of a sudden, he heard screaming. Everyone was running. Jack leaped into action, noticing this guy trying to take advantage of that woman. He shot him to his death, saving her. That was not going to end well, so he did what he had to. Jack always tried to help people in need, but he needed a chill break after that one, so he just decided to chill on his balcony. He watched as the sun started to set over Armadillo, and tonight he wanted to go crazy at the bar. He had his first drink, then his second, and third, fourth, and then fifth, where he was now completely out of it. He stumbled away from the bar, barely able to keep himself up. Without looking, he hit a wall and fell on the ground. He'd be here a while. He started to feel better, so he headed into his room where he called it a night. He woke up again the next day. He rated the room a 6 out of 10 since it had a nice balcony as well. For the overall niceness rating, he gave Armadillo a 4.5 out of 10, leaving the total score to be 10.5 out of 20. Jack quickly left as he had one last place to hit before he left the country. After a long ride, he finally made his way up to the next town, Tumbleweed. Except there was a major problem. This town was taken over by criminals. The local sheriff had been captured, so he'd do whatever it took to try and save him. He was getting pelted from all angles though. He slowly took them out one by one as he advanced his way into the town. Eventually he cleared out all the ones he could find, and he thankfully found the sheriff. He quickly untied him, and he briefed him on what happened. The sheriff told him there was still some in the mansion, so they headed that direction. As the sheriff was running though, he was shot and killed. Jack had just witnessed his death. There was just too many of them, and to Jack it was not worth it to stick around and find out if he'd survive or not. This was his cue to leave the town and get away as fast as he could. Tumbleweed sure didn't go his way. It was also starting to storm. Jack needed shelter fast. Thankfully he found a tent he could rent for the night. He called it early and headed to bed. When he woke up, the rain had stopped. He quick ate some breakfast at camp. He climbed this giant tower as well, because he wanted a great view of where he'd be going, which was Mexico. Before he left though, he noticed a guy looking for an arm wrestle. Of course Jack had to play. 3, 2, 1, they went, but he lost immediately. Couldn't believe it. He opted for a rematch, only to get the exact same result. That guy was good. Jack's winning streak was over. He didn't let that get to him though, because he was now crossing the border. Welcome to Mexico. He was now at the town of Chuparosa. Jack knew minimal Spanish, but he was excited for this town. This was a much different experience than the Wild West towns he was just at. He knew his dad spent a lot of time here though. He got some food at the market and checked out a bunch of different stalls. This was a very lively area. He saw another guy making horseshoes like earlier, then he decided to explore town. He wanted to check out this building, which must have been the sheriff's office. Hopefully he wouldn't sleep in here for tonight. He went to the top floor to get a nicer view of the town. Next he wanted to check out this church. It was pretty nice in here. He spent a moment looking around. After that he decided to head to what looked like the saloon. Of course he had to have a drink. This was a nice area. Like usual though, he headed to the blackjack table where he hit and busted with a 22. It looked like his luck was really out now. He finally decided to head to his room, which was actually very spacious, way bigger than he thought. Jack noticed something fun. He lined up his shot and fired, shooting off all of these candles. Great accuracy training. That was enough messing around though. The sun was starting to set, and like the ranch, he'd be working the night shift. Once again, he was tasked with keeping the place safe at night, with the dog at his lead. Very quickly though, the dog started running. Jack was witnessing a holdup. He quickly lassoed the guy from behind, saving the other man from tying this guy up. The job was not over yet though, as the dog lunged again. This time he had to save a woman from a gang. The lasso clearly wouldn't cut it for this job though, as Jack narrowly got the cover. He pulled out his gun and started taking them out. Outmanned but not outskilled. Quickly he finished the job, leaving none of them behind. His night shift was over. He was then rewarded for his actions, whereafter he headed to the saloon to relax. He decided to have some fun again, where like before, he drank way too much. He was stumbling his way through the saloon in a country he was not familiar with. What an adventure this had been for Jack Marston so far. Eventually, he tripped and fell, hitting the ground. This had been a crazy night. He made his way back to his room, where he headed to bed for the night. He woke up to a nice day outside, but as he was leaving town, a shopkeeper asked for his help in assisting with capturing a thief. The man made it far, but Jack caught up and shot him to his death, where he retrieved the stolen funds. Upon returning though, another man asked for his help. He wanted him to tame this wild horse. After numerous attempts, he was able to get on it and tamed the horse. Jack was making some good money. It was finally time to leave town, because he still had one awesome location to go to. He had a long ride ahead of him. For the room in Chuparosa, Jack rated it a 6.5 out of 10. 10. For the overall town niceness rating, they gave it a solid 6 out of 10. He eventually made it to the next town, Escalera. This one looked super cool. He quickly hitched his horse up and first headed to where he'd be staying. This room was pretty nice, except there was a hole in the ceiling. As long as it didn't rain, it'd be good. It was now time to explore the town. Jack headed to the market first to get some food, where he also bought some fish from a man. This was the best market area so far. It was time to head into the core of the town though, where Jack found a gun store. He always just enjoyed browsing because there was still more to explore. There was one really cool landmark of this town, the governor's mansion. Thankfully, the guards let him in. This place looked so nice. Of course, Jack had to go check out the inside. He sure wished this is where he would be spending the night, but of course it wasn't. It was fun to see though. After climbing one of the guard towers, he was able to get a great view of the city from above. Since it was getting later, he headed back into town, finding this cool deck. He honestly loved this town so far. He gave the overall niceness rating a 7.5 out of 10. Of course though, he couldn't come here without checking out the saloon. This was one of his favorites so far. He wanted to try a new game, so he was going to play Liar's Dice. To be honest, he had no clue how to play. It didn't help that he didn't know Spanish as well. He wasn't quite sure if he won or lost, but he called that good. After the saloon, he headed down, where he got some stew and chilled by this fire. Then it was time to head to his room, where he headed to bed. Besides the hole in the roof, his room was actually really nice. He gave it a solid 6.5 out of 10. He woke up super early for the long ride back, as today he was finally heading back home. On his way out, he noticed some 5-finger fillet, and of course he had to try and end on a winning note. He knew he could beat this slow guy. Jack started off on a bad note though, hitting himself, but locked in the second time and ended up winning this round. Jack finally had a win back, a great way to end this trip. It was time for him to start heading home. Jack gave Escalera a total score of 14 out of 20. As he rode home, he reflected on all of the towns he visited. His favorite was Blackwater, but he also really enjoyed Escalera. This was a trip of adventure, from crossing over to a new country to rounding up and killing outlaws. This trip had it all. He hoped his dad would be proud of him, and by taking this trip, he felt closer to him than ever. This wasn't a trip about vacationing, but rather a trip to learn and reflect on life. The Wild West wasn't dead yet.